Mom and Dad grew up in South Central Kentucky. It was kind of in the Stearns and Whitley City area of the state. Mom and Dad both had large families. The Cordell side of the family had 12 children, and on Mom's side, the Strunk side of the family, had 8 children. They grew up in a small rural community where everybody knew everybody else and mainly would meet at church or school. They basically grew up together. They were married in 1926 at the age of 21, and when they married, they moved to Cincinnati to get jobs. Dad worked at several different jobs as the family grew. Some of the jobs he had was like he was a bus driver, he was a policeman, he was a paint salesman, he sold furniture. Mom was mainly a housewife, but helped with a boarding house that they owned in Norwood in Cincinnati. Growing up with a large family is a lot of fun. Basically, you have all your friends built in. We had a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of work. We all had to help around the house because there were so many of us. Too much for Mom to do alone. We really couldn't afford vacations, but in the summer months, we would, what we called vacations was to go to the country to visit my grandparents. I had 3 older brothers, Bo, Cliff, and Bill, and 1 older sister, Alice, and then I had 2 younger twin brothers, Harry and Larry. So my oldest brother was Bo. I don't remember Bo's early years, as I was just a child myself. To me, he had always been married. My personal remembrance of Bo was that he was like a big teddy bear and always affirming and looking out for me, and he was loving and kind and very supportive. The only negative thing I remember about Bo is he was a worrier. He always was worrying about this or that, and he'd come by the house and visit on a regular basis. But the best thing he ever did, in my opinion, was marrying my sister-in-law, Thelma. She is now the matriarch of our family and still active at the age of 94. My second oldest brother was Cliff, and once again, I don't remember Cliff's early years as I was just a child. And like Bo, to me, most of the time, he was married. But he was one that I went to get advice. He worked for Kroger, and he got most of his part-time jobs working at Kroger's. I would bag groceries, I ran the cash register, I would stock the shelves, I would work in the office, and so that's how I saved money to go to college. Bill was the one I probably knew best because he was still living at home when I was there. The one thing I remember about Bill was he and Alice would fight all the time. They were both stubborn, but Bill would give good advice, and he was busy with school and work and dating and church. But the one thing advice Bill gave to me was one day he said, "Jimmy, come on out in the car, I want to talk to you." So I thought, oh boy, my big brother is going to tell me about the birds and the bees. And when we got in the car, he handed me a $1 bill, and he said, "Jimmy, I want you to go to the drugstore and get some deodorant." In other words, he said, "You stink." Alice was like a little mother, and she tried to tell Harry and Larry and me what to do, which we resisted, of course. And being an only sister, I think we did try to protect her. But we kind of had what I would call a love-hate relationship. Sometimes we were on the same page, and many times we were not.
What was it like living with twin brothers?
I was probably the closest to Harry and Larry because we were just 3 years apart in age. And we'd play together, and we would play ball in the street or kick the can or go to the park to swim. And I was the youngest. 3 years later, Harry and Larry were born. Well, I used to get all the attention, but now these two cute little twins got all the attention. So I didn't like it. And one day they were standing, holding on to the side of the playpen, just learning how to stand, and I pried their hands loose and let them fall. I was trying to get rid of them, but fortunately they stayed around. We lived in a house where the upstairs was not heated. Rather than go downstairs at night, we had a little potty that we had upstairs where we would pee in the potty at night. One night, we got into a pillow fight, and the Monopoly set was sitting up on top of a cabinet, and one of the pillows hit the cabinet, and the Monopoly set fell into the potty. So we dried all the pieces out and put it back together and never told anybody they were playing with pea Monopoly. We had a neighbor friend called Brian Appleman, and my dad always said, Brian was kind of a strange kid, and Dad said he'll either be the President of the United States or he'll go to jail. Well, unfortunately, he went to jail. But we would tease him a lot, and one day he had a garage in the back of his house, and these garage doors were solid. They weren't like the ones today that kind of roll up. So Harry and Larry and I had the idea to tie Brian to the inside of the garage door, and then we raised the garage door and let him hang down. Needless to say, he told Mom, and we got into trouble. Mom was a very neat housekeeper. She wanted everything clean, everything in its place. Of course, with so many people in the house, you had to put things away or you wouldn't be able to get around. She enjoyed crocheting. She would crochet doilies and different things like that, or she did a lot of sewing. She made some of our clothes. But she was a good cook. She was very nurturing and loving and was very spiritual in her own devotional life, which certainly influenced us. But I would just remember Mom being very loving. My dad loved wrestling, and it was so phony, you could tell it was staged, and he would get in there and cheer for the guy, and Harry and Larry and I would sit in the other room and laugh. But I guess it was his only entertainment because he worked most of the time. He was very involved in church. He was a deacon and a Sunday school teacher, and I think he was highly respected as a Christian. One time we were coming home from church, and we went by United Dairy Farmers, which is an ice cream store. "Oh, Dad, please stop. Let's get some ice cream." And he said, "No, we can't win home." And I realized later the reason he did that, he didn't have the money to buy us ice cream. And he did provide for us. We weren't rich, but we didn't know we weren't rich. Dad passed away in 1982. I was living in Somerset with my family and minister of music at First Baptist Church, Somerset. And I remember in the later years of his life, he began to kind of lose his memory, and finally he had to go to the nursing home. And Harry lived in Cincinnati at that time, and so every day he would take Mom to the nursing home to visit with my dad. When we were home visiting Mom and Dad on holidays, Mom didn't really have a picture of all of our families together. So one year we did Bo, his wife and children, and Cliff, his wife and children. So they took pictures in the front yard. And that was the only other house they ever lived in. They actually bought this house. The other one they rented for $50 a month when we were growing up, and I lived in the same house the whole time. The time we really saw each other as a family, because we all lived in different cities, was when we would go to visit Mom and Dad. And so when she died in '86, we realized we needed to do something to get together on a regular basis. So that started the Cordell Family Reunion, which started in 1987, the year after my mother passed away. We eat a lot, and we play games and catch up. Sometimes with different family members, you'll spend time together, and it's just a time to renew acquaintances and get to know new members of the family. And then on Saturday night, we would usually have a meal together, and then we would have the family talent show. At the end of the reunion, each year we would take a group picture of the entire family. And of course, some years people had to miss. They weren't all there every time, but for the most part, we have pictures of all the family members that go back 40 years. To the family, one of the highlights was when the boys would get together and sing. And it was Cliff and Bill and me and Harry and Larry. And so we would always sing a song or two at the family reunion, and they would record it and act like it really sounded good. The legacy that Mom and Dad left with us, the most important was our faith, our Christian faith. And then we were a very close family, so I think the legacy of being a family was very important to them. And then music has always been a part of our family gatherings too. So I would say those are the three main legacies that Mom and Dad left.
Oh, Jesus is the rock in a weary land. Oh, weary land. Oh, weary land. Oh, Jesus is the rock in a weary land. A shelter in the time of storm. I'll praise him with notes loud and clear. While rivers of pleasure my spirit shall cheer. Precious name, oh how sweet, oh the birth and joy of earth. Precious name, oh how sweet, oh the birth and joy of earth. When we